Learning new skills is one of the most powerful ways to adapt to an ever-changing world, and the ability to learn faster is a superpower available to anyone who understands how the brain and body work together. Skill acquisition is not magic, it's a biological process. When you leverage your biology correctly, you accelerate learning far beyond what traditional practice alone can offer. You become someone who not only adapts, but thrives in the face of new challenges. The first principle is understanding neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to rewire itself based on experience. Every time you engage with a new task, your brain changes, synapses form, neurons fire together, and with repetition, wire together. But neuroplasticity is not constant throughout the day. It is a state-dependent process, meaning the brain must be in the correct chemical and electrical state to optimize learning. You can train yourself to enter these states deliberately, thereby creating an environment inside your own nervous system where learning happens faster. One of the most important levers you have for controlling neuroplasticity is focus. Deep, concentrated focus triggers the release of neuromodulators like acetylcholine and norepinephrine. These chemicals mark specific synapses in the brain, signaling them for change. Without focus, repetition does little. With focus, even brief sessions of practice can lead to significant learning. To enhance focus, remove distractions ruthlessly, place your phone in another room, set a clear intention for your learning session. Even 5 minutes of deep, undistracted focus has a profound effect compared to an hour of fragmented attention. Your visual system is directly tied to your level of focus. Narrowing your visual field, essentially putting yourself in a state of tunnel vision, naturally engages systems in your brainstem and basal forebrain that increase alertness and attention. Before beginning any practice session, take a moment to stare at a fixed point without moving your eyes. This simple act primes the brain to enter a state of heightened focus, setting the stage for faster learning. Another crucial factor is the timing and structure of your practice sessions. The brain's ability to learn is not linear. It follows an ultradian rhythm, cycling approximately every 90 minutes. During these cycles, there are natural peaks in alertness where your brain is more capable of intense focus. Learning to recognize and align your practice with these natural peaks greatly accelerates skill acquisition. Track your energy levels across the day. Notice when you feel most alert and mentally sharp. Schedule your most demanding learning during these windows. When practicing a skill, error is essential. In fact, the presence of errors is a sign that plasticity is occurring. When you make a mistake, your brain releases norepinephrine, signaling that something unexpected happened. This chemical surge flags the neural circuits involved, making them more likely to change. Fear of failure is a major barrier to fast learning. Reframe mistakes not as evidence of inadequacy, but as vital triggers for growth. The discomfort you feel when you mess up is not a problem. It's biology telling you that you are on the edge of real learning. Deliberate practice is another cornerstone of rapid skill acquisition. It's not enough to simply repeat a task mindlessly. Deliberate practice involves identifying the edge of your competence, the point where success and failure are both possible, and systematically targeting those areas with focused effort. This form of practice forces the brain to make fine-grained adjustments to its internal models of performance, leading to deeper, more lasting learning. Rest and sleep are not luxuries in the learning process. They are where the magic happens. During sleep, especially deep sleep and REM sleep, the brain consolidates the synaptic changes made during waking practice. It's during sleep that memories are stabilized and skills become automatic. Skimping on sleep is like setting fire to the gains you made during practice. Prioritize 7 to 9 hours of sleep, and where possible, use non-sleep deep rest protocols, simple practices like lying still with eyes closed and focusing on your breath, to accelerate recovery and consolidation. Emotions play a powerful role in learning speed. When you are excited or deeply motivated about a skill, your brain's reward pathways flood your system with dopamine. This neuromodulator not only feels good, it also enhances plasticity. You can cultivate this effect by learning to generate internal rewards. After a successful learning session, take a moment to celebrate internally. Allow yourself to feel proud. This simple practice spikes dopamine and reinforces the behaviors that led to success, making you more likely to repeat them and strengthening the underlying neural circuits. Nutrition and hydration are often overlooked, but are critical for learning optimization. Dehydration of just 2% can impair cognitive function significantly. Drink water throughout the day, especially before and during learning sessions. On the nutritional front, ensure you are getting sufficient omega-3 fatty acids, which are essential for synaptic health, and maintain stable blood sugar levels to avoid energy crashes that impair focus and plasticity. Breathing patterns can also dramatically affect your learning state. Shallow, rapid breathing is associated with anxiety and scattered focus. Deep, rhythmic breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system, promoting calm alertness, a state ideal for learning. Incorporate deliberate breathing before practice. A simple protocol: inhale deeply for 3 seconds, exhale fully for 6 seconds, and repeat for 2 minutes. This primes the nervous system for deep focus and primes the brain for plastic changes. Visualization is a powerful, underutilized tool for skill acquisition. The brain doesn't distinguish much between real and imagined practice. Mentally rehearsing a skill activates the same neural circuits as physical practice, enhancing learning. Spend 5 minutes at the beginning and end of a practice session visualizing yourself performing the skill flawlessly. Feel the movements, see the environment, engage all your senses. This primes the neural pathways and speeds the transition from conscious competence to unconscious mastery. The learning environment matters. Environments associated with prior successes create psychological cues that enhance motivation and confidence. If possible, designate a specific place for skill learning. Keep it organized, free of distractions, and imbued with positive associations. Over time, merely entering that space will prime your brain for focused effort and faster learning. Physical exercise is a potent modulator of neuroplasticity. Even brief bouts of exercise, such as 20 minutes of cardiovascular activity, increase levels of brain-derived neurotrophic factor BDNF, a molecule essential for learning. Consider incorporating light exercise either before or after your learning sessions to enhance brain readiness and consolidation. Mindset shapes outcomes in powerful ways. Believing that you can improve a skill through effort actually changes the way your brain processes errors and feedback. It shifts you into a state of active engagement rather than passive resignation. Cultivate a growth mindset deliberately when challenges arise, and they will remind yourself that difficulty is a signal of growth, not a verdict on your ability. Chunking information is a strategy that allows the brain to handle complex tasks more efficiently. When learning something new, break it down into small, manageable parts. Master each part before integrating them. This approach mirrors how the brain naturally processes information through hierarchical, modular circuits and greatly accelerates the mastery of complex skills. Progressive overload is not just for physical training. It applies to cognitive training as well. Gradually increasing the difficulty of your practice sessions pushes your nervous system to adapt. If you stay too comfortable, learning stagnates. If you push too hard, frustration and burnout occur. Find the sweet spot where effort is high but achievable, and consistently raise the bar as your competence improves. Self-generated feedback is one of the fastest accelerators of learning. Rather than waiting for external validation, learn to monitor your own performance. After each practice session, reflect. What went well? What needs improvement? How will I adjust next time? This habit of self-evaluation strengthens the metacognitive circuits of the brain, making you a smarter, more adaptive learner. Exposure to varied conditions during practice creates more robust skill sets. Known as context variability, practicing a skill under different conditions forces the brain to extract the core principles of the task rather than relying on rigid routines. If you're learning to play an instrument, practice in different rooms with different acoustics. If you're learning a language, engage in conversations with people from different regions. Variability builds flexibility and resilience into the skill. Stress can either help or hinder learning, depending on its intensity. Moderate levels of stress release adrenaline, which enhances attention and memory formation. However, chronic or excessive stress impairs these same processes. Learn to regulate your stress levels through deliberate practices like breathwork, meditation, and exercise. Protect your nervous system because a well-regulated system learns faster and more deeply. Task switching and multitasking destroy learning speed. Each time you switch tasks, there is a cognitive penalty. The brain must disengage from one set of circuits and activate another, consuming precious energy and time. Create clear, focused blocks of time for skill practice without interruptions. Tasking is a superpower in a distracted world. Learning in public, or making your learning process visible to others, can dramatically accelerate your progress. Public commitment increases motivation and accountability. It also forces you to confront and overcome the fear of failure in a healthy way. Share your learning journey with a community. Post updates. Celebrate wins. Learn from setbacks. The social dimension activates powerful reward pathways that enhance commitment and effort. Curiosity is the emotional engine of accelerated learning. When you are genuinely curious about something, your brain naturally prioritizes it for attention and memory. Cultivate curiosity deliberately. Ask better questions. Dive deeper into the why and how behind the skill you're acquiring. When curiosity leads, learning follows. Leveraging a beginner's mind, approaching each practice session with the humility and openness of a novice, keeps the brain in a hypoplasticity state. Resist the temptation to believe you've mastered something too soon. True mastery is layered. Every time you revisit a basic element with fresh eyes, you strengthen and refine the underlying neural circuits. Mentorship accelerates learning by providing access to the cognitive models of more experienced practitioners. A good mentor doesn't just teach, they model how to think, how to approach challenges, how to structure learning itself. Seek out mentors. Learn not just what they do, but how they think about what they do. Teaching others is one of the most powerful ways to solidify your own learning. When you teach, you must organize your knowledge clearly, anticipate questions, and articulate principles in a way others can understand. This process forces deep encoding of the material in your own brain. If you want to learn a skill faster, teach it as soon and as often as possible. Learning is an energy-intensive process. Protect your energy. Pay attention to nutrition, hydration, sleep, and emotional regulation. Remove unnecessary drains on your cognitive resources. Create an internal and external environment that supports sustained effort and deep work. The story you tell yourself about your ability to learn matters profoundly. If you see yourself as someone who struggles to learn, that belief becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you see yourself as a dynamic learner, someone who can change, grow, and adapt, you create the internal conditions necessary for rapid growth. Choose your internal narrative wisely. When you integrate these principles into your daily practice, you transform learning from a slow, painful grind into an accelerated, invigorating process. You don't just accumulate skills, you build a new identity, someone who can master whatever challenges come next. The ability to learn faster is not reserved for the few. It is available to anyone willing to understand and leverage the incredible biology they already possess. Skill learning speed is determined by biological states like focus, neuroplasticity, and emotional engagement. By deliberately managing these through deep focus, proper sleep, dopamine, error correction, and rest, You can dramatically accelerate how fast you acquire new skills. Learning faster is not about working harder, but about working smarter by using targeted strategies like deliberate practice, deep focus, emotional reward, varied practice environments, mentorship, and internal self-talk to optimize brain and body for maximum growth. Would you also like a short, motivational quote summarizing the spirit of the speech too? You said, expand one but don't subheading ChatGPT said, skill learning speed is determined by biological states like focus, neuroplasticity, and emotional engagement. By deliberately managing these, you can dramatically accelerate how fast you acquire new skills. Focus is the foundation of all fast learning. When you engage in deep, undistracted focus, your brain releases critical chemicals like acetylcholine and norepinephrine. These chemicals act like spotlights, highlighting the specific neural circuits that need to change and adapt. Without intense focus, repetition is almost meaningless, but with it, even brief moments of practice can reshape the brain in powerful ways. This means that setting aside protected time for learning, free from distractions, is not just helpful. It is necessary. Managing your biology also means understanding and working with neuroplasticity, which is the brain's ability to rewire itself based on experience. However, the brain is not always equally plastic. It has windows of heightened readiness, especially during times of deep concentration, moderate stress, and rest afterward. Learning how to deliberately place yourself into these states through techniques like narrowing your visual focus, timing practice sessions around natural energy peaks, and regulating your emotional state multiplies the effects of your effort. Emotional engagement acts as an accelerant to this entire process. When you are emotionally invested, when you are excited or deeply motivated about what you are learning, your brain releases dopamine, which strengthens the very circuits involved in the task. Dopamine doesn't just make you feel good. It chemically tags the learning as important, speeding up the reinforcement process. This is why creating internal rewards, celebrating small victories, and staying connected to the deeper reasons you want to learn something are not just motivational tricks. They are biological necessities for learning fast. In addition, making errors and experiencing small amounts of failure, while emotionally uncomfortable, are signals that your brain needs to adjust and refine its models. Every mistake releases chemicals that flag neural circuits for change, making the system more sensitive and primed for learning. Rather than shying away from errors, embracing them as essential signals accelerates adaptation. By managing focus, aligning your practice with neuroplastic windows, generating internal emotional rewards, and interpreting errors correctly, you create the perfect internal conditions for skills to be learned, adapted, and mastered at a pace that most people would consider impossible. Learning faster is not about working harder, but about working smarter by using targeted strategies like deliberate practice, deep focus, emotional reward, varied practice environments, mentorship, and internal self-talk to optimize brain and body for maximum growth. Many people assume that sheer repetition is the key to mastering a skill, but without intentionality, repetition can reinforce errors and inefficiency. Deliberate practice means isolating the specific aspects of a skill you find most challenging, breaking them down into smaller components, and working on them with precise, focused effort. It demands that you stay at the edge of your current ability where failure is possible, but improvement is inevitable. Simply going through the motions never leads to mastery. Conscious correction and challenge do. Deep focus is critical because the brain's ability to change itself depends heavily on attention. Multitasking, distractions, and fragmented attention scatter the brain's resources and dilute learning. Structuring learning sessions where you can immerse completely, whether for 30 minutes or 90 minutes, simplifies every minute of practice into a much larger biological impact. Emotional reward systems must also be engaged. When you learn to cultivate your own feelings of progress and pride, even over small wins, you spike dopamine, which directly strengthens learning circuits. Waiting for external praise or validation slows the internal reinforcement process. Taking control of your emotional state and recognizing your progress becomes an essential tool for speed and sustainability in skill development. Practicing in varied environments pushes your brain to encode the skill in flexible, resilient ways. When you only practice under one condition or in a predictable environment, the brain ties the skill too tightly to that context. Introducing variability forces the brain to generalize the learning, making the skill more adaptable and robust. Similarly, mentorship accelerates growth by giving you access to strategies, thought patterns, and feedback loops that would take years to discover on your own. A mentor doesn't just show you what to do, they reveal how to think about the process, how to organize your learning, and how to navigate setbacks. Learning faster also demands that you master the conversation you have with yourself. Positive, growth-oriented self-talk shapes your brain's willingness to stay engaged during challenge. It reinforces a belief system where effort leads to improvement, keeping motivation high even when immediate results are not visible. Working smarter means leveraging all these biological, psychological, and strategic elements together. Instead of relying solely on willpower or grinding through endless hours, you align your practice with how the brain naturally learns best. You tap into internal systems of motivation. You train focus as a skill in itself, you structure your environment for success, and you treat your mind and body as dynamic systems that can be optimized. The people who learn fastest are not those who try harder. They are the ones who understand learning faster is not a mystery reserved for a select few. It is a process available to anyone willing to understand and harness the biology of their brain and body. By directing focus, embracing deliberate practice, leveraging emotional rewards, optimizing environmental conditions, and shaping internal narratives, you create a system where growth becomes inevitable. Skill acquisition is not about talent or luck, it's about applying the right strategies with consistency and intensity. When you align your efforts with the natural principles that govern how the brain changes, you turn learning from a struggle into a structured, empowering journey where transformation is not only possible, but expected. The ability to learn faster is built through specific, deliberate actions that align with how the brain naturally changes and adapts. When you manage your focus, harness your emotions, structure your practice intelligently, and treat mistakes as critical data points for growth, you create the conditions for accelerated learning. Progress is not about working endlessly, but about working with precision, working with understanding, and working with your biology, not against it. Every skill, every breakthrough, every level of mastery becomes a direct reflection of the systems you put in place and the mindset you cultivate over time.